back a bit. I don't think they're going to do anything. And again, a little bit more pulse laser fire going off at 500 meters. It's not really doing anything. I assume that all of those guys are running their pulse laser range mods. Those of you who don't know, the range mods, the weapon modules were recently upgraded to not generate extra heat. And so you basically get a free increase in range for carrying these weapon modules. And the spiders running pulse lasers are clearly going to have those on there if they're trying to get what poking there is on this deck in.
Alright, so we are good. Everyone should be able to see everything. I will, of course, confirm that in just a moment with my preview mode. Yes, they are indeed seeing things. This is good to go. I apologize for all the delays. Like I said in chat, my entire system super hardcore failed like a week ago, and some of this stuff is basically broken, so I'm fixing it, unfortunately, on the fly as it presents itself to me. Thank you for your patience. This should be the end of it. But, of course, yell at me in chat or something if you see anything that's wrong. I will fix it immediately. And we should be good.
Alright, and we're down to about 3.5 minutes in game here. Let's see if either team decides that they want to make a move, or whether we're just going to see this go for 50 minutes and then redraw.
UAV activated.
The UAV goes up, I believe, from Sanguine Tigers. Both teams put UAV up.
Destroyed.
They're just making sure that they know if the other team decides to make a move. And both UAVs are back down. Still not a whole lot going on here. Got all the Sanguine Tigers mediums tucked onto the side of this platform here, sort of on the second level. It's an interesting spot to have them. It does keep them very safe, keep them together.
I imagine at this
it's a little bit difficult for them to make a move from there, though.
We're starting to run out of time here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see whether either team decides to go for a pick. I mean, Sanguine Tigers has gotten the better of the trading, so to speak, but the mechs they've hurt are mostly the enemy spiders, which are frankly very, very difficult to get picks on. So I would be surprised if they can have a significant advantage in going for a pick. Looks like both teams are just perfectly content to take this out to a draw and do it all over again. Hopefully when they do it all over again, they'll do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's looking like they're approaching that mark, I guess, where they have to make a play if they're going to make one at all. So we're going to see something in the next 20 seconds to 30 seconds, if ever. So if they don't start making a move by the 1 minute
they don't
mark,
have to start necessarily pushing quite yet, but you'd expect them to be forming up for something if they were going to do anything. And Sanguine Tigers, at least, is just still in their sort of hidey hole over here on the left side of this platform.
UAV up randomly.
Well, I mean, there's nothing else to do with it at this point. It looks like both teams are just going to sit back. Yeah, STS isn't forming up, and Black Spikes is putting their UAVs up defensively. So, I mean, I expect this to just go out to a draw. I'm not sure whether teams are allowed to change their decks between, but we might see one or both teams pick up maybe one ranged mech just to put the pressure on the other side to come in at them. Because right now, with both sides not having anything longer range than, you know, an LB-10X or a medium pulse laser, I mean, it's not going to get the job done in terms of forcing an engagement. Neither side really seems super enthusiastic about charging into the other team's firing line.
I agree.
And yeah, this is going to be 10 seconds left, and that's about it. Again, interestingly enough, the spiders for Sanguine Tigers just way outperforming the black spikes in terms of their trades. But again, the numbers are so small overall that it doesn't matter. It's just not enough advantage for Sanguine Tigers to decide to press it.
All right, and there we go. Not a whole lot happened. Fortunately, you guys didn't miss anything. Just a lot of little pokes here and there. Yeah, I guess we're going on to a repeat of this drop.
Yeah, and Sanguine Tigers managed to do a grand total of, how much is that? 57 damage. Not a whole lot. Black Spikes did 4. So, not an eventful match overall.
Not overly. I am being informed to fix your head. So I am doing so now.
Is my head out of the picture again?
Yeah, it reset that on me. You should be good to go now, though. There we go. All those problems should be done. I apologize once again for any and all inconveniences that may have caused. But map tactics is up. We are good to go. Oh, I just realized that the overlay reset itself too, so let me proceed to fix that for everybody. My apologies. I guess it straight crashed. Trying to kill the stream fast enough not to miss anything for you guys. Oh, man. I am correcting that as we speak. You're Antonius Rex again, Peter.
Oh, man. Now I can say terrible things on stream and pass them off as him. Alright, so looks like they're currently still in the lobby, getting ready for the redrop here.
Yep.
All right, so who was Team 1 and who was Team 2 again?
Team 1 is Sanguine Tigers.
Okay. And then Team 2 was, okay, so what happened was Sanguine Tigers. Here's all the action that happened, guys. Sanguine Tigers was here. They moved up into the second level. Second level here. Put all their mediums here. And put their spiders here. And sort of left their oxides out with their mediums. And black spikes hung out here behind this wall right here, and occasionally sent mechs to go trade with spiders from here and here. And that's pretty much all that happened. Not the most exciting match. Maybe teams will be more aggressive on the next one, or someone will bring some range to try to poke in at the enemy and force them to make a move.
Yep. Letting him know to let me know when they launch.
So yeah, I guess while we're waiting, we can talk about some of the builds we saw and what we... some of these builds that we saw were very unusual by North American standards. The SRM Oxide, for example, is something you don't really see very much of. Usually, if you want a brawling light, the Ember is the go-to option. but they opted for the Oxide, which obviously has a much bigger immediate punch, but is land-bound and is frankly much more fragile because of the enormous center torso. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously it's working for them, otherwise we wouldn't have brought it, but
well,
that's just a big surprise for me.
I'm not sure why they would take that over an Ember, personally. I kind of get it. It's a lot more raw punch. And there's been an argument going on now in the competitive scene of Artemis worth it or not.
Well, they're not running Artemis at all on those.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
they just don't have the
EU
touch.
doesn't, but then North American does. Most of
Well,
us.
you just on an Oxide, it doesn't matter. You don't have the tonnage for it.
Right, but
Plus,
I mean, they're not running on any of it.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I understand where they're going with it. They want the raw firepower as opposed to going with the MGs and the DPS and things like that. So I understand where they're going with that. But
you actually do get fantastic DPS out of those SRM launchers. If you're running the 2.6s, 2.4s, your ability to short-term DPS is, you're talking about roughly 11 DPS if I'm doing my math right. I mean, it's higher than what the Ember can put out in the short term.
Right.
The only issue, again, is that you've got spread on those missiles. The Ember, though, has to keep on target, which is also a downside.
All right, we just went live. Let's spectate Proton. That should make the colors accurate, by the way. If it works.
I'm getting that they're still in lobby.
Hey, wake up.
Oh, there we go.
All right, there it goes. Beautiful, beautiful. Everything should be working. Good. All right.
You should also change the scoreboard at the next opportunity because it is not 2-1 at 0.
It's 5 minutes delayed. I already did.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's see if we see any differences from the deployment. Spider, Oxide, Oxide. All right, same stuff more or less from the Black Spikes, it looks like, unless they change the builds. Sanguine Tigers, Oxide, Spider, Shadowhawk, and Tara, same stuff. All right, let's see if they go.
Does look like we got some aggression from the Black Spikes right now, but I don't know how far that aggression is going to go.
They are swinging around to the left of Sanguine Tigers here. Sanguine Tigers are backing off. And it looks like we're in a similar setup as last time at a slightly different
New
spot.
target acquired.
Actually, it is the same spot.
UAV activated. UAV destroyed.
And yeah, lots of UAVs going up, lots of UAVs getting shot down.
I am noticing an ER large laser. Was that just me?
Maybe. Who has an ER large?
I think the Spiders.
Oh, yeah, the Spider has an ER large. Trying to get a little bit of harass on. That might force them to come in a bit.
Yeah, there does appear to be aggression this time, so this was a... Yeah, they basically used it to feel each other out. And now we're seeing a lot more aggression here. Both teams apparently made about the same
UAVs
adjustment.
going up all over the place. Wow, look at that. Satellite warfare. And Sanguine Tigers is coming around the right side here. All right, let's get in here. Kate Knox Griffin is taking a lot of pressure. And so is Almera's Shadowhawk.
Right leg critical damage. Right arm critical damage.
And frankly, things are just going crazy right now. I can't tell what's going on.
Yeah, we're
We
getting
got
lots and lots and lots of
2
fire
mechs dead for Black Spikes and 1 dead for Sanguine Tigers. 3 now. 3 to 2.
Yep, 3-2.
3 to 2 for Sanguine Tigers. And the final heavy, it looks like, is about to drop for Black Spikes. And
Yep,
wow,
heavy's down.
yeah, this is going to be mop-up. This is 6 mechs up to 3.
Doctor seems to be the next target going down for Sanguine Tigers, assuming they don't drop the rest of Black Spikes.
Oh, Doyle just took a massive hit. Wow. Whoa.
Lots dropping for Sanguine Tigers right now. This is getting really close really quickly.
Yeah, they need to
the
drop
proton
that
is out.
oxide. There we go. That's it.
Yeah. This is getting close now. This should be wrap up.
The spiders are super fresh for Sanguine Tigers. It's going to be pretty much impossible to kill
New
them.
target acquired.
And yeah, they're just starting to hunt down these final enemy spiders.
Right leg critical damage.
Yep, the leg for Kilo is crit now. He's on the run.
Left arm critical damage. Left leg critical damage. Heat level critical.
That's
New
it.
target acquired.
Kilo's last mech.
Heat level critical. Right leg destroyed.
And that's the end. Well, that was a lot more aggression than last time.
Yeah, that was very quick. Teams poked at each other a little bit. That ER large laser from the spider got Sanguine Tigers come in, and they just came in. And honestly, the way they came in, they could have come in like that last time, regardless of that 1 ER large laser being swapped out instead of the pulses.
Wow, look at the
They did an
scoreboard.
excellent job. Yeah, look at that. The Griffin, 2 damage. I mean, that is very effective killing power. You come around the corner, you get the guy to start backing off, and you just blow his legs out in 2 volleys. That's it.
I mean, look at the oxide. 258, 218. Wow.
Yeah. Really good damage on that.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. I would not have guessed that to be the case. But there it is. I mean, I guess the proof is in the numbers there.
Yeah, that is quite impressive. And those Kintaros putting up huge numbers too. I mean, as you expect, it looks like the Shadowhawks went in first, and I think that was planned because the jump jets do make it a bit harder to take their legs out from under them, so they allowed themselves to be the primary focus targets. They obviously tried to protect themselves as much as possible, but then the Kintaros came in with their absolutely absurd DPS there, with the 5 missiles, and just tore things up. It's very hard to argue with 5 SRM6s, because they just hit you very hard.
That seemed to be what they were going for, just sheer firepower.
All right. Well, that was the first game. That was definitely interesting to see. Excellent demonstration of brawling prowess by the Sanguine Tigers. So what's the next drop then?
The next drop appears to be Frozen City Knight. 2 lights, 4 mediums, 2 heavies, and no strikes. Maximum of 1 of any chassis and 2 duplicate chassis allowed.
Basically, it means we're going to see 6 different types of mechs on the field. Probably we're going to see duplication on, I guess, the heavies and mediums, but you can never tell. This is Frozen City Knight, which is a very brawl-friendly map. So I would expect to see both teams bring compositions pretty similar to what they brought on the last one. SRM voted, again, just because that seems to be the dominant brawling weapon. And yeah, just the Oxides apparently seem to be doing fantastic, so I'd expect to see a pair of those from each side. So a lot of things we could see. There's going to be a lot of different types of mechs on the field too because of this particular type of restrictions. What do you think we'll see from the heavies? We didn't see any heavies on the last drop because it didn't allow any heavies. What brawling heavies do you think that they're going to bring?
Well, if they're sticking with their SRMs or nothing mantra, I mean, there's of course Quick Draw, there's Ryan's. Both those mount some SRMs. There's Cataphract 2X. Nobody really uses that, though. Very niche people use that.
Yeah, it behaves a lot like the Orion ultimately. It's got some differences, but it's very similar to the Orion in performance.
I mean, you won't see this flat cat as much as everyone would like to. The ears are just too big.
Yeah, that thing's a sitting duck, honestly, unfortunately. I remember running those things back in the day. That thing was mad, crazy, powerful, but yeah, it's just, I don't expect to see it. Again, it can still hit like a truck, but it's too easy to de-ear. You don't even need to leg it like the other mechs. You just take the ears off and ignore it. And those ears are so damn easy to hit.
My guess, either Orions or Quick Draws, actually. Just for SRM firepower. That seems to be what everyone's looking at doing most of the time. Unless we see something totally off the wall, which, even if we saw something totally off the wall and just people decided to go like a large laser spam on this map, which would probably be incredibly unlikely. But if they did, the Quick Draw's good at that too. So, I mean, that's a likely heavy, I think.
There's also the possibility that they decide to use two different heavies because they're only allowed to duplicate two of their chassis. So it's possible we'll see something like an Orion and a Quick Draw. Though I guess if you go Orions, you probably just want to double up for the extra bulk and punch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd expect them to double up on the heavies in that case. I'd expect to see Orions, honestly, based on the way both teams are playing in terms of, getting ready for an intense, committed brawl.
I can see that.
Ultimately, the speed and the jump jets of the Quick Draw are nice, but it doesn't make up for 15 tons of armor and firepower.
I mean, if we see something similar, we could even see the VA.
Yeah, the VA, you think, with the 4 launchers and then an AC-20 or an LB-10, depending on if they're running XLs or whatever.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
It fits with the MO. It does.
That would actually not surprise me very much at this point. Based on the number of SRMs I've been seeing, I could absolutely see the Orion VA, which is, largely ignored in the NA scene, making an appearance here. That would be an interesting choice. The key thing to remember with that mech, though, is it's not the Splat Cat in that it doesn't have these enormous ears that stick out, but all of its SRM launchers are in the arms, which does mean that it is fairly strippable if you decide to go that route.
Yes. But
that said, you're still leading it up with a ballistic, which is scary.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that, for the most part, EU scene is just legs, 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 legs. I mean, if that's the case, then this makes sense.
It doesn't matter where you put your firepower. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think either of us are extremely well versed in the EU scene, so I'm interested to see what happens. Just speculation right now. I think we'll be going into Drop 2 here in just a few minutes. So speaking of Drop 2, we're looking at Frozen City Night, which is the same as Frozen City, except for, I don't know, clear.
Yeah, you can actually see on this version of Frozen City. It's very nice.
Yeah, being able to use your eyes is great. So we got...
Heat mode activated. Heat mode still activated.
Yeah. So we got Sanguine Tigers on the low side, and we have Black Spikes up there on the high side. What do you expect from that?
I'm not entirely sure. Usually the high side is not in a fantastic position to defend unless they stay very, very high. If they start rolling into the lower ground, it's fairly easy to push around the tail of the dropship or the nose of the dropship from the lower side onto their positions just because of the way the buildings are placed. If Sanguine Tigers wanted to get a bit of range, which again I think is unlikely, they're definitely better served by being on the lower side. That said, it's quite possible for brawlers to turtle up, anywhere on the upper side and make it a pain in the ass for enemy brawlers to push in on them, as Black Spikes demonstrated the willingness to do on the previous drop. So we could see a bit of a standoff, at least for a while Sanguine Tigers decides what the best way to attack Black Spike's position is, if they decide to play it like they did on HPG.
Yeah, the other thing to note is there's two different ways to spawn on both sides of this map. The one way to do so is to, on the low side, spawn D4, D5. Believe it or not, if you're going for a straight aggression, it gets you both to the same point rather quickly. That allows you to play a lot more aggressive if you're going to do so. The other way of doing it would be a B3, B4 spawn for the top side. That's another quick point of aggression. You got to be careful what mechs you put in which one of those spawns, because it's kind of steep in some areas. So you want to put the lighter mechs, I think, over there in B3. They have a steep hill to climb.
B4 has a steep.
B4 is it B4? Okay, B4, fair enough. Now, if you're wanting to play defensively, or you're wanting to play it more of a reactive push, the D4 E3 spawn is pretty decent for lower side. And of course, you're left with the only option of B3, B2 for the upper side. So it depends on what they kind of want to play here. Both these teams tend to be, well, at least Sanguine Tigers tends to be very aggressive. As I stated before, Black Spikes tends to be tactically passive. I say that because they're not always passive, but usually. They wait to see what the other team is going to do first before they decide to do anything. So I expect something more on the defensive side, at least to start, from Black Spikes, and then we'll see heavy aggression from Sanguine Tigers, as long as they know it's not foolish.
Yeah, I mean, that's more or less the way that the previous game played out, and given the fact that teams are likely to bring similar compositions, and it's a similar, though not identical way, I would be surprised to see too much deviation from that formula. Again, you know, one of the teams might mix it up, try to surprise the other, try to get the upper hand, but that seems to be the way that it's likely to go.
Point worth noting, carrying on from your initial point you made when we first started the stream, Black Spikes has to win every match from here on out to be able to take a victory for Division A.
Yeah, I guess that puts a bit of pressure on them. Still, my guess is that regardless of that, because it is a series where you have to play all five no matter what, you can expect to see both teams, no matter what the score is, trying to get at each other's throats for the extra couple games, just in terms of, you know, playing right and, you know, boosting their own performance, you know, doing the right thing, getting wins under your belt.
Oh, right. Even if you're not going to win the series, you know, you put yourself further behind by not putting in the effort for any other games. So, you know, you want to make yourself look as good as possible. Even regardless
of that, you know, you always want to win the game. Like, it doesn't matter if the game doesn't matter anymore. You still want to win it, right? I mean,
right.
That's part of the competition.
But yeah, but more or less the point I was getting at, an interesting thing about MRBC is that every game matters, regardless whether you're going to win or lose the series. All right, and they just launched, so we're going to go ahead and get into that game.
All right. So they're moving in. So let's see whether our predictions were accurate about what these teams are bringing.
I see an Orion VA already.
Centurion 9A for the Sanguine Tigers.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we've got. So Sanguine Tigers are running 2 Oxides, a Centurion, a Griffin, a Shadowhawk, and a Kentaro, and then an Orion VA and another Orion VA. So yeah, as we expected, double Oxides and double Orions. And then just a mix of SRM-based mediums.
Yep, for lures, we have an Oxide, we have an Ember, we have a Griffin 3M, a Shadowhawk 2D2, we have a Centurion CN9A, we have a Shadowhawk 2K, a Jägermech DT, and a Firebrand.
I'm going to guess that those are AC-20 Jaegers, based on the map. You could run Gauss, but that would be strange.
They're certainly 20s, already checked.
We see a lot of UAVs going up. We see Black Spikes taking the saddle and the nose of the dropship, while Sanguine Tigers deploys near the tail. We can expect both teams to try to rotate for a better position. And here we go. Here comes Black Spikes. They're coming in hard. Trying to catch the flank. They're going to try to catch these Orions. I'm not sure that the Orions are going to get out safely. May force Sanguine Tigers to turn around and start fighting. That Oxide, Red Diablo, is getting a bit ahead of his team. He may take a lot of fire.
Yeah, Doyle's taking huge, huge damage right now. And he's actually in a bit of trouble.
New target acquired.
These Orions are quad 6s LB for reference.
Yeah, I guess that's an XL engine to go on.
Sanguine Tigers are kind of getting clustered.
All over the place. Wow, okay, 2 down for Sanguine Tigers, 2 down for Black Spikes. And it's just broken out into complete chaos because those Orions got caught. The Centurion goes down for Sanguine Tigers.
This is actually a really close match right now.
Here. 4 down, 5 down for Sanguine Tigers, and the final heavy is about to go out. This is going to go Black Spike's way. They saw an opportunity and they capitalized on it. Excellent push. Pushing when the opponent was a bit strung out and not in cover. And Elmaras is down, which puts Black Spikes ahead on this one. Excellent job to Black Spikes pulling that one out. Good attack.
Yeah, you know, I feel like this was an issue of speed almost. I feel like the Orions were just a little too slow, and you can see the damage here put out by all the mechs.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was an XL 300 or 325 on the Orion. I'd have to build it out to be sure. But the 300 only puts you going at 71 kph with speed tweak, which is just not at all comparable to what the AC-20 Jaegers or really the mediums that caught them can do. So that really bit them in the ass. I feel like if Sanguine Tigers had just about faced in the plains when they realized that Black Spikes was coming at them, they may have been in better shape. It still wouldn't have been an ideal spot to fight from, but you definitely don't want to let your biggest mechs get caught and picked at for free for as long as they did.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they did basically get caught out. You know, the alternative thing was they saw that Lords was getting aggressive. They could have basically pulled back to the D4. Well, is it D4? No, it's C4 buildings there. They could have pulled back and basically fought around the buildings and the dropship. I feel like they had the superior brawl, but they didn't get a chance to use it. They got pounced a little too early and got caught strung out. And the difference in firepower in that very brief window was enough to offset the rest of the fight.
Yeah, those Orions, frankly, just have much more firepower than the Jaeger mechs. The Jaeger mechs do have a slightly better, peaking profile or whatever, and they are a bit faster, really. But ultimately, the Orions, again, doesn't matter how much firepower you have. If you get caught and picked on in sort of a 1-on-4 situation, it's going to be bad. You're not going to do well.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that Sanguine Tigers maybe should have figured out that they weren't going to win a foot race, and they should never have gotten in a rotation battle. Just picked a spot and waited for the opponent to make a move, and then just move straight into that.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I am with that. Interesting mechs all around, though. Like, just very untypical for if this was an NA game. So far, very interesting. Next match, I guess. Next match is looking like Forest Colony, and it is required a Battle Master. We'll get to that in a moment. 3 mediums, 4 heavies, no strikes. Maximum of 2 of any chassis.
So you can expect to see 2 different mediums, 2 different heavies, and a Battle Master.
Yeah. Now, there's an interesting point about that Battle Master. The Battle Master is what's called the Commander. This is basically, they're trying to simulate it being a commander assassination mission for both sides. What will happen is that if one team kills the enemy Battlemaster, they get 50k additional C-bills. If both teams kill each other's Battlemaster,
Nobody gets any points.
Nobody gets any points. Right.
If you kill the enemy Battlemaster and protect yours, you get a 50,000 bonus. If you don't kill, if there's a draw or there's just a long protracted situation and nobody's Battlemaster dies, then nobody gets a bonus, which is very unlikely. And if there's both Battlemasters are dead, nobody gets a bonus. Ultimately, this bonus isn't going to make or break either side here in terms of the ultimate standings, but you can expect both teams, I think, to just play for the win here. I don't think there's going to be too much protect the Battlemaster going on. They'll do whatever it takes to win the drop, I think, first and foremost.
I agree.
That said, let's talk about what we expect to see. I expect to see a Battlemaster S from both sides. They love their SRMs, and that thing can carry a bunch of SRMs. It can also carry a fairly decent-sized XL engine if you decide to stick it in there, which both teams seem to be a fan of.
Yes. Interesting to note that black spikes are spawning on the high side. And you got sanguine tigers on the low side. Now, this is not as much of a deficit as most people tend to think. It depends on what tactic the other teams, well, each other put out. If they both decided to go like shoreline or land side regardless, the top side certainly has the advantage. However, if sanguine tigers or black spikes decide to go water, the lower side has the advantage because of the islands and the boats. So it's kind of sketchy on what each team does. Typically, what I think is natural to see here is that each side will go to its strongest side of the map. So lower side will typically go towards the boat, and the top side will either stay top side for the high ground advantage, or they'll rotate towards land side, and they'll try and get pokes at each other from there. I don't know if that really cancels each other out doing that. I feel like there is still an advantage, though I don't know which side that really goes to. I feel like water still has a cover advantage if topside tries to rotate around land like that.
I'm actually almost less interested in sort of how the sides play into it than the fact that this is actually a map now instead of Frozen Colony or Frozen City rather, where a little bit of mid-range combat can actually give you a huge leg up on a map like this, just because it's small enough that mid-range weapons can reach across pretty much the entire map. And there's enough open space that if you want the enemy to approach you, say across the water or up to your radio tower, that they have to actually give you a good shots on the approach many times.
Yes.
So I would actually think that we may actually see one or both teams not bring a full mid-range comp, but bring a handful, maybe 1 to 3 mid-range mechs to try to put a little bit of pressure on the enemy and get them to close on their terms.
Yeah, I suspect that's actually fairly accurate. We could see an all-out brawl. Again, that tends to be typical for the EU, but I feel like having range here would be an advantage, at least a little bit, if nothing else. So I'll be interested to see what they bring to set up for that. I mean, we've got again, they can have 3 mediums and 4 heavies. So there's a lot of options on the heavy side for them to get some range. And let's not forget, the Shadowhawk 2K is a very capable long-range harasser. So they do have options to bring range in their decks. The question is, will they, and what will they bring?
Well, it's also possible that we see something like the dual AC5 ERPPC or PPC coming off of Black Spikes. I know the Lords like that particular build a lot, and it does do a good job in terms of getting both DPS in a sort of brawling situation, as well as putting significant mid to long range pressure on the enemy. It may be a good option in this case.
I agree.
But other than that, yeah, I think the big question is, where is the range coming from? I don't really see it coming from the Battlemaster. They might bring cataphracts because you have 4 heavies here.
Very possible.
And cataphracts are decent at putting out some range. Well, we'll see very shortly what they brought.
There we go. Arish 2 was spectatable. And that would be eyes, by the way.
All right, so we've got a pair of... Ooh, interesting. So we've got a Jaeger Mech A, a pair of Orion VAs, and a Cataphract 3D coming off of the Sanguine Tigers. And it looks like the Jaeger Mech A is running 20 and SRMs, which is a very interesting choice.
I agree, actually.
Honestly, never thought about that.
The cataphracts
It is a
appear to be
Battlemaster
Goths.
G with some ER large and Aus for Sanguine Tigers. That is their mid-range firepower, in addition to the Cataphract. They are running Shadowhawk, 2D2 Kintara. I'm assuming this is all brawling mediums. So they've got the Battlemaster and their Cataphract putting out some mid to long range firepower. And what are we seeing from Black Spikes?
It looks like you got AC-20 K2s, you got the AC-5 PPC you're referring to, an AC-5 PPC for the Cataphracts and the Shadowhawks.
And a Hellsinger is almost certainly carrying a lot of SRMs.
Yep. Yep. Interesting.
And looks like the early mid-range pressure from the Battlemaster and Cataphracts is forcing Black Spikes into a different approach than they initially wanted to take. They're taking a bit of free damage down here. A lot of their mechs are in the low 90s. That's not the end of the world by any means, but that's definitely noticeable.
Yeah, we actually got Red Diablo down to 80s
And now they're
already.
pushing in. Now they're ready to hard commit. All right, Doyle is a little bit out in front here. He might get taken down very shortly for Sanguine Tigers.
Yeah, Doyle's in big trouble right now. Big trouble. But Kilo's already down. The Centurion already hit.
Yeah, look
2
at that. Skate
for...
was down as well.
Yep, Coburn just goes down.
Doyle, I assume, is a stick or something. That's why they left him, because he's so close to dead. I can't believe they didn't finish him.
Dr. Toten's freaking Orion is just putting out huge damage, but inevitably gets dropped.
Wow, look at this. It looks like Black Spike may be able to come back. They have 3 healthy mechs against the 2 from Sanguine Tigers.
UAV deactivated.
Yeah, their Battlemaster is
The
still up, but it's
Hellsinger
in
is
bad
running a
shape.
standard engine, which is making a big difference for him there, because he'd be dead otherwise.
Level critical.
Yeah, it's just the long-range mechs left up for Sanguine Tigers. I don't think they're going to pull this one out.
Critical. New target
agree.
acquired.
Things over. But a good, strong push from
Heat level.
Black Spike, so it's very decisive. They made a decision under a pressure position,
Target
and
destroyed.
here's they made the right one.
Yeah, good job by them. Very effective. I guess the one thing that surprised me when I saw what Sanguine Tigers was doing was that they didn't either give themselves more space or put their short-range mechs into more of a firing line. They sort of pushed out, and it allowed first Doyle to get sticked almost immediately. So he only did 36 damage before he was rendered weaponless. I'm not sure why they did that instead of trying to hold their positions a little bit tighter, because they knew that the enemy had to come pouring into them. They sort of broke up their formation on that push, it looked like. I'm not sure that was the right decision.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely feel like they didn't use their position as well as they could have. I mean, having said that, whose deck do we really want to vote for here? I mean, both of them were rather interesting. I don't know.
Well, it was interesting, I think, because the Sanguine Tigers brought sort of the more traditional European deck with fast XL moving mechs. They did bring a bit of range support, but again, I think that was because of the map, as we discussed earlier. Whereas the Black Spikes brought a deck that, maybe some of the builds are a little bit strange and might not be exactly what you bring in NA, but the fundamental principle of, medium pace brawlers with AC 20s coming up hard on you with standard engines is pretty typical of what you might see in NA on this map. And I just think that's an interesting feature because we hadn't really seen that much from them so far. It was a bit different with all the standard engines.
Yep, obviously the dual 20 cat as opposed to the Jaeger.
And again, that Battle Master, it looked like they were going for the XL check on it. They blew its right torso off intentionally, and it did very little. Did not have a huge effect blowing that torso off because it did not die and it did not have a whole lot of weapons in there, I believe. It's left side loaded.
Yeah, left side loaded. That's what I was about to ask. It's left side loaded, not right side, so that didn't even take its weapons off. Yeah. I think, I said this for a long time. That's been my big quote for this map, is that this map is HP heavy. Like, the more hit points that your collective team has for this map, the better off that you are, because you're always taking damage if they have any range to do anything. Either side will. You can't make any movements in this map without taking damage for it. So if you have an exorbitant amount of hit points, you will win out over someone who does not.
The other thing I noticed, and I'm not sure, again, I obviously wasn't involved in the battle plan, and I wasn't listening to their comms or anything, but it looked like Sanguine Tigers wasn't sticking quite as strictly to their strategy of lagging the enemy as they had been in the past. Again, as we said, they went for the XL check on the Battle Master, and I saw a handful of Black Spikes mechs walking around with sort of half their side blown off, which definitely isn't something we saw on any of the previous drops. It was just all legs all the time. I think maybe if they had pursued that strategy, they would have had more success, potentially. Especially if they had sort of kited back into the water a little bit more. Anything that you leg on that approach is just completely and utterly useless.
I agree. I'd say overall, though, Lords actually had the superior range firepower. I think they had more of it in their deck.
Black Spikes, really? I didn't really see very much range firepower.
They had it in their Cataphracts and in their Shadowhawks.
Okay.
Yep, they had UX and Large Pulse in their Cataphracts, and they had AC5 PPCs, I believe, in their Shadowhawks, I want to say.
All right, I guess I didn't get a close look at that. I did see the lasers and Gauss coming off of the Cataphract and Battle Master for Sanguine Tigers, though, which were severely important in determining where that engagement happened. Because initially, do we have the map up? Initially, the push was coming up this road. They saw the long range. They backed along here. And they were going to try to come up through like this. But they started taking too much fire here and here from these angles. So they backed off, back around here, and pushed in on the back of this rock, which gave them a bit more cover. Now, as it turns out, Sanguine Tiger's main force was right behind here, and as we mentioned earlier, they pushed right out into the enemy force at this point. Meanwhile, the snipers were still sort of back here, somewhere around there, as best I remember. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's the mid-range firepower then that got them to try to push in. Because if you were right that there was a lot of AC5s and large pulses, then when Black Spikes rounded this corner, they were probably able to out-damage the snipers. And the snipers probably wanted brawler support, so they had the brawlers push in, and that's sort of where it got flipped on its head. That's what I'm guessing, at least.
Yeah, very probable. Very probable.
Because I did not notice the large pulses in AC5s, but if that's what it was, then yeah, that could absolutely tear up Gauss rifles at 400 meters, to be sure. Just doesn't quite compare. Interesting choice. Definitely well played by Black Spikes, demonstrating the power of bringing standard engines and mid-range DPS punch on a map like this. Excellent job.
Yes, they did a great push there, and correct deck for the decision. So moving on to drop 4, Alpine Peaks on Skirmish.
Well, this is one of those maps that we're going to be sitting here for an hour or two while they just draw repeatedly.
Yeah, that warranted a face palm from me. Alpine Peaks on Skirmish.
Eventually, somebody's going to disconnect. They'll walk into the enemy team, and then we can go home.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we get some aggression, something interesting from this map. Notoriously, though, this map is really stagnant on Skirmish. But the composition going into it will be 2-2-2-2. Airstrikes only. Maximum of 1 of each chassis. 1 duplicate chassis allowed. Lights are exempt from these rules. So that's what we're looking at.
I assume, based on what the mechs we've been seeing before, that there are no clan mechs allowed at all. Otherwise, if there are, we can expect to see anything that can carry clan ER large lasers, because they tend to just be very important on this map because of the ability to have extra range. But again, assuming, based on the fact that we haven't seen any, and I haven't heard anything about clan mechs this entire time, that there are no clan mechs, I would guess that the big mech that we're going to see from both sides is the ER large laser stalker. In sort of a standoff situation, it's very difficult to outtrade it, especially on a map like Alpine, where you can, on a lot of spots, get really high cover, where you have superior trading to people below you that try to approach you.
Yeah, you got that. You've also got the obvious choice of the Shadowhawk 2K for the mediums.
Right, it has an extremely good profile like the Stalker. It's a bit more mobile, though.
Yes, and I think the EU favorite for the heavy choice is, of course, the Quick Draw for this map. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I think we could see either Quick Draws or Cataphracts, but my guess is they'll be built out similarly with ER large, then maybe a Gauss or something. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what the EUs do for their heavies on Alpine. I just haven't seen enough matches to be sure, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, my guess is they're using similar ideas as the North Americans, because again, it's just a map where the standoff is so powerful. The ER large laser is just utterly dominant. Yeah, I would guess that we're going to see just ER large laser boating, and probably even ER large lasers off the lights. I'd expect to see spiders and or ravens bringing some ECM cover, bringing some ER large laser pressure. Those oxides with SRMs really aren't going to be very useful on this map because they're only important if they get within really close range, and I don't think that that's necessarily a realistic situation on this map.
All right, so let's switch over to that map actually on our thing here.
The important thing to remember, though, is finally we do have live airstrikes.
Yes. So that means they could get a random pick if they layer their strikes correctly, and that could force an engagement to happen.
Yeah, there will be 8 strikes per side, almost certainly, so you can sort of keep an eye on the number of smokes you see go down, and that'll give you a sense of how efficient these teams are being with their strike damage, because that's going to be an important thing here. There's plenty of time usually in Alpine to get your strikes off, so the key thing is to make sure that you get good hits on them. It's not a fast engagement map where you just want to spam, spam, spam and hope that you hit something. You got to make sure that you're getting the most out of them. Because you're doing 8 strikes over potentially 15 minutes, you want to make sure you're hitting hard.
Well, as much as
wake up.
Oh, looks like Drop 4 is going to be launching, so let's get on right to that. That is, after all, what we're here for.
Yep, here they go.
I'm already seeing Dragon Slayers.
All right, so yeah, Dragon Slayers looks to be the choice for Sanguine Tigers. Did I just see a Thunderbolt 5 SP?
I'm seeing from...
Yeah, we're seeing a Thunderbolt 5 SP. I don't even know. So dual Dragon Slayers, a Cataphract, Thunderbolt 5 SP. For those of you who don't remember, that is the one with no jump jets and a ballistic point. Spider, Raven, those are presumably ER large, and then Hunchback and Shadowhawk 5M, which presumably is 2 AC5 ERP, and the P is going to be ER large laser bow.
Yeah, and from the Lords, where we have Banshee 3E, 2 Cataphract 3Ds, a Stalker 3F, 2 Raven 3L, Cicada 3M, and a Shadowhawk 2K.
Right,
the
again,
Banshee is not
much to be
surprising.
expected.
Yeah,
except the Banshee, honestly, because what does the Banshee really bring in this situation?
Well, remember, it does have some high-mounted energy hardpoints. So if you have to bring another assault chassis...
It looks like an AC bow. Look at that. It's got so much stuff prickling out of it. It looks like trip 5s and a 2 or something.
Actually, it's a very good point.
It can't be.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. I'm going to hop into that mech right now just to be double sure, but it does appear to be what it is. It's trip AC2s and a machine gun with no ammo.
Seriously?
Yes. And trip ER large lasers. So they are abusing the high-mounted shoulder hardpoints of the Banshee. I mean, keep in mind it's got quick draw syndrome without the jump jets. I mean, it's still the head will show first before the mech. But as far as overall physical orientation, the energy hardpoints are high up, as are the ballistics. So it does make a bit of sense, especially since you're dealing with extremely long ranges like this. But still, it's worth noting, Lords have, or Lords, I said Lords, lols. Anyway, Black Spikes, and Lords, whatever.
And that is a dual Gauss rifle Cataphract.
Yes, and they have taken a more aggressive position along the 9 line here. However, as we discovered a long time ago, Sanguine Tigers are up on top of the mountain on F3.
Yeah, that's a very difficult position to attack just because there's absolutely no cover on your approach. If you swing very, very, very far left with next to the jump jets, you can get up on a hill that can potentially trade with it, but that's a very long approach, and it gives them time to respond, potentially relocate, do any number of things. Ultimately, directly attacking that position is, as you can see, foolhardy just because of the massive, massive open ground you have to cover, and then the thin areas you can climb up.
Right. Well, since we got time, let's look at the decks a little bit from these guys, a little bit more detail. So the Shadowhawk 2K from Trueborn is Trip ER Large Laser. Cafe Ox is running dual ER Large Laser and a Gauss Rifle on his Cataphract 3D. Red Diablo is dual ER, obviously. Kilo is quad ER Large Laser on the stock. That's not surprising. Selith is running double Gauss on his 3D. Skate Knock is double ER for his Raven, and Coburn is double ER on the Cicada. So what do we got coming over from Sanguine Tigers?
The Dragon Slayers appear to be ER large laser Gauss. The mediums, the Shadowhawks are ER large laser Gauss. And the Hunchback is, of course, ER large lasers, as predicted. Raven. Actually, Raven is running trip ER large lasers.
I just noticed that, yeah.
That is weird. Normally you only see double ER large lasers, but I guess they're just going for the extra punch in this situation. This is Alpine, you don't have heat issues. You're pretty much using this thing as just a stand and shoot anyway, so the speed isn't necessarily crucial.
It's worth
if you're just hanging with the main force.
Your Dr. Totem there is running trip ER large laser Gauss on his Cataphract as well. So that's a lot of time to investment.
Thunderbolt is running trip ER large laser Gauss. Interesting. So yeah, there's probably a bit more firepower on the Sanguine Tiger side, but also probably more XL engines, which could end up biting them in the ass in the long run if they get in a trading war and somebody just gets popped really hard. But we'll see. It does make it much harder to actually push on a situation like that, because you just don't have the firepower to overwhelm it. Both teams seem content to sit back right now. Again, Sanguine Tigers is still camped out in the F3, G3 area, way, way, way up on top of the mountain, sort of in the corner of the map. while Black Spikes is content to control their major hill at I-9, there's a couple of lights that are coming up, maybe to poke, but I don't think that's a good idea, because they're just going to get way out-poked by the amount of firepower that can be brought to bear on them.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how the engagement's going to happen here. Just as a side point, I typed it in chat, but I'll say it here. I apologize for any engine noise that you hear that lingers for a long period of time. It does appear to go away after a while. It is a bug with Spectator on this map. Sadly, nothing I can do about it. But yeah, they do seem to be just content with chilling there. They don't seem to be getting too aggressive. Have we seen any of these strikes even go off yet?
I've seen a couple of strikes. I don't think they've really hit very much with them now. I know there was one airstrike going down from Black Spikes onto Sanguine Tigers. But I mean, nobody is below 98% right now, which suggests that there's not a whole lot going on. And it looks like those 98% are just leg damage from falling.
Yeah.
I don't think that Black Spikes wants to attack that position, and I think they're just going to wait. They're going to wait for Sanguine Tigers to come off that mountain, and Sanguine Tigers is not going to come off that mountain.
Yeah, and the Hunchback just took a Gauss rifle for 0 damage. Highlight of the match.
Well, I think we missed the highlight of the match when somebody took 2% damage from falling.
Touche. I'm still just absolutely perplexed by the choice of this Thunderbolt here, and I am zooming in on this mech, but he's moving all over the place for whatever reason to try and figure out why.
Well, the thing to remember with the Thunderbolt is that that Gauss rifle that's in his arm is relatively low slot, so it doesn't have a particularly good trading profile. That is in a 5S, correct?
Yes, he is in a 5S.
He does have 3 energy hardpoints in his left torso, so my guess is they're using him as a left side peak primer. Because it is possible to mount your Gauss and your energy hardpoints in your left side, and I believe that your cockpit is also skewed to the left side of the mech, which does enable you to do some pretty effective left peak action. Unfortunately, I think on this map, side peeking isn't quite as strong as it is on a lot of maps, just because so much of the cover is vertical hills. But if they get him in a good spot where there's a hill descending to his left, he should be able to get a fairly decent trading profile and put in a lot of punch. I guess that's what they're trying to do with it. That's an interesting idea that I don't think I've ever really thought about. Will be interesting to see it in practice, though, if they ever get around to shooting at each other.
Yes, yes. Although I don't suspect that's going to happen right away. I mean, the reality is somebody has to fight. The question, I guess, really becomes who's less patient.
Yeah, I think that both teams at this point are willing to wait it out because, again, Black Spikes can't afford to do anything stupid. Any loss at this point is going to cost them their shot at the #1 position. If they win this one and the next one, they will be the #1 team in the MRBC EU League, which I'm sure is something that they're well aware of and they're very much interested in achieving. At the same time, you know, Sanguine Tigers, they have no incentive to blow it either. This is an important win for them too, for exactly the same reason that's important for Black Spikes. They don't want to give them that chance. They want to close it out here, and they're not going to go do something stupid. Honestly, if this goes for a draw and then goes for a draw again, the solution might be for both teams just to play Conquest, because that will force an engagement of some sort. They may agree to do that, I'm not sure. But that would be the obvious solution, because skirmish on Alpine tends to look a lot like what you guys are seeing right now. It just is not the most exciting game.
It's not a whole lot going on right now. I mean, quite frankly, well, let's discuss a bit about this map. There's a couple of points on this map, two of them in particular, that are literally unassailable. Like, I don't think that it's even possible to aggress them without just losing. Right now, Sanguine Tigers is standing on one of them. The other one is all the way back on.
G3 area is very strong.
Yeah, then you got
yeah, the
G13,
other one, as you were saying.
G13, which is on the other spot.
Well, how about the H11, I11? That's also an extremely strong spot that is very difficult to attack from any angle. Sort of the hill behind where the black spikes are currently set up that overwatches this one.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, that's G13.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's Mount Doom, as I call it.
That whole area.
You just can't aggress these two spots. Reality is, if either one of these wants to make a move, if one of these teams are at that spot, it's a loss. If they want to make it interesting, they'll do some spots elsewhere.
Yeah. And unfortunately, just removing those spots from the map doesn't actually solve the problem, because as soon as you do that, all of a sudden, the H9, I10 hill becomes virtually unassailable, because the really only counter to that is to go up around the back into H11 and shoot down on it.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this map is, I just think, not very well designed for skirmish, just because it is very, very promoting a extremely passive style of play. And if teams are willing to take draws, that's what you're going to get. And frankly, it's a little bit on the boring side.
I guess I'm just going to go to a cockpit view randomly, just... Yeah.
Well, we're down to 2 minutes left. Not much damage. Coburn in his Raven rather, has gone down to 90% health. Seleth down to 88%. This dual Gauss,
Seleth actually in rough shape now because of what just happened in there. He just got hit dead on by a strike. Alvarez is coming down. They're all coming down off the hill. They're trying to make a pick now. Is what's going on.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm not sure they have the time, honestly. It's too late.
Yeah, Alvarez is pretty hurt. Seleth is got some damage, but he's not in any real danger yet.
He's still got enough space that they're not going to really do too much damage to him at this point.
It is worth noting. Well, even Almarath is not really that hurt. It's just his leg.
Yeah, but if they take his leg, that's not good either. They could easily seal him, take his leg, drop a strike on him, and boom, that's it for a light.
Yeah, he's still got armor, though. It's worth noting. I think a lot of the HP went to his dummy, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like
Doyle's in rough shape.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense for them to try for a pick at this point. They're actually more hurt than Black Spikes are as a result of their rapid coming off the mountain, taking some fall damage, taking some shots on the approach. I think both teams should probably just keep their heads down at this point and take a draw.
I agree. Doyle's in really bad shape. He is, of course, in a Dragon Slayer and not smoking out of the arm, so that damage is certainly appreciable damage. And that will be the end of the game. This will be a redrop for sure. So...
Doyle was actually not that hurt. It was mostly, again, fall damage on his right leg. Yeah, as you can see, Black Spikes did roughly the same damage, maybe slightly more than Sanguine Tigers did. So the difference in Sanguine Tigers' health at the end there was probably mostly due to them coming off that enormous mountain as fast as they did and taking a significant amount of fall damage.
Yes.
Fall damage is no joke. That will screw your mech up.
Definitely a distinct possibility there. Yeah. Well, feel free to walk them through that. I am going to step away for just a moment.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on, unfortunately. Hopefully we get it's a little bit more going on next time. Honestly, I would like to see both teams just agree to play this game mode on Conquest. Both teams have proven that they are capable enough to bring long-range comps on this and sit way the fuck back. I mean, at this point, I want to see an engagement. I want to see them play on Conquest. Maybe that's just my bias. I like Conquest mode. I don't like this map. I don't like skirmish on this map. Again, for exactly the reasons we just saw. But I think that might be the best solution. Otherwise, I think we're just going to sit and watch them strike each other and ER large laser each other all the time. I don't think it's very productive. All right. I can't imagine that either team is going to significantly change their strategy based on what they saw from the other. I mean, they both knew what they were going to bring. They both knew what the opponent was going to bring. I don't really see a whole lot of, how do we tweak it to make them play our game? No, they were already playing their game. I expect to see more of the same, unless they can magically agree to play Conquest, which would be my favorite situation. And I will shut up about that now, because I've been going on too long about how I don't want to cast another skirmish at this. I don't think it'll change anything, really. Maybe even slightly more biased towards lots of long-range ER weapons. I don't really know what they can do in terms of that, though. Yeah, I think that the difference may not be in what they bring, but how they play it. It might not surprise me on the next drop to see Sanguine Tigers try to take the position that Black Spikes initially moved to and hope that they're going to hit each other on that mountain. That may be an approach they choose to take. Ultimately, though, that does favor Black Spikes from that side. They do have a slightly faster route up, and it will be an uphill battle, quite literally as well as figuratively, for Sanguine Tigers if they choose to do that. But it will get them an engagement that's not too bad. Trying to attack them anywhere else on the map after they've been given a chance to set up is quite literally suicide. So, okay. So that's just, probably their best option if they want to get an engagement. Well, there's a lot of Lord's players on there. You know, Seleth and Kathy Angst and Coburn are regular players on the House of Lords, so it's not really surprising to maybe get them confused occasionally. All right, we see a new setup coming from Sanguine Tigers. They're going radio tower. That's extremely difficult to attack. The one thing to know, though, is that it is possible to roll up on this position from the shoot, what direction is that? That is from, I'm going to say right or left. That doesn't make any sense. So if from where the Sanguine Tigers are facing here, on their left, they have a bit of a blind spot where it's possible to make a push on them. Ultimately, it's a pretty dangerous and risky move, especially if they know it's coming. But if you can sneak up on them a bit, it can be pretty devastating. It is definitely much harder for them to shoot far to their left off of this mountain than it is to shoot anywhere else. And again, Black Spikes are in the same. You got me doing it too, man. I hate you. Got Black Spikes in the same spot, doing pretty much the same thing. Trying to do Gauss trading, it looks like, at very long ranges where your large lasers will do virtually no damage. And yeah, not a whole lot new happening right now. That Hunchback looks like he just got hit by a strike. That probably wasn't fun for him. On Ira.
Airstrike online.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Coburn is the most damaged players for Black Spikes, and he still looks fine. Yeah, just a little bit of damage spread. Seleth, same thing. Does look like Black Spikes are slightly ahead on the trading, but again, it's just such low numbers that it doesn't really tell you very much. Yeah, there's some AC2 fire coming off of that Banshee right onto the Dragon Slayer of Doyle. And an airstrike comes out, and it doesn't look like it hits any of the STS. Yes, so to all our excited viewers, check back in 8 minutes when something interesting might happen. I am kidding, kind of. Yeah, so just let's see the ranges they're working at. They're working at I need to get the crosshair ranges because unfortunately I can't control that myself. Yeah, they're working at about 1,300 meters, a lot of these trades, which is right where the ER large lasers really stop doing damage. They only reach out to 1,350. So at 1,300, you're doing maybe, 1 or 2 damage for the entire beam duration, which means you're not really going to do a whole lot. All the ballistics, other than the gas rifle, have double fall off. They're going to be doing pretty much no damage at that range. Again, AC2 is going to be just doing slightly more than nothing. The Gauss rifle, though, at 1300 meters is still hitting for about half damage, which means one Gauss slug can hit you for 7-ish damage. 7 damage off of the Gauss slug, which is definitely noticeable. I haven't seen a whole lot of Gauss hits going down yet, though. Ah, there we go, just a couple of Gauss hits there on Doyle right now, coming off that dual Gauss cataphract from himself.
Yeah, they're starting to take some real damage. Apologize for what might be muted earlier. People I muted on the actual stream as well. That was actually user error that time. Nothing actually broke, thank you very much. Lord's actually taking some actually meaningful damage at this point. Starting to in some places. Both of them are, though. Doyle as well is feeling the pain. Nothing crazy for either team yet, but it is starting to mount.
Caffeine is taking quite a bit of damage, but it seems to all be on his arms, which in a cataphract again isn't really a huge deal. Oh, and Coburn takes a big plunge diving off of that top. Should be some significant leg damage on him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Probably
Orange,
beats him hit by a strike, that's still hurt. Oh, it wasn't too bad. He's got orange armor. Took out plenty of health. Have you seen anything interesting going down from where you're standing?
No, but you know the HP. Ooh, Cafe is down to 73% right now. Both arms seem to be smoking, but I don't think it matters because I think they're running all of their. Well, no, that's not possible. They definitely are running a weapon in the arm, and he is starting to feel that. I will check in on him now. No, never mind. He's only running 2 large lasers, not 3, so he definitely does not care about the damage to the arms. Of interesting note, though, his head armor is currently orange. Definitely strikes doing it.
One interesting tidbit I will point out is that it looks like Proton still hasn't put any ammo in his machine gun.
Yeah, what's with that?
They had that drop, and he had the chance to theoretically go restock it, and yeah, still got nothing.
I have a theory on that, actually. It's used for crit padding.
Verk, by the way, your mic is muted.
I know, I've already fixed that.
On your speak.
Yeah, I fixed
So I can't hear what you're saying.
Microphone activated.
Sound of beach. So you can't hear what I'm saying either.
I was trying to ramble along, trying to be like,
You're fine.
I
was
gotta
talking.
say something.
Oh man, I'm sorry, I spaced out. Anyway, yeah, wow, I'm just off my game. Don't worry, this will be on YouTube, so everyone can laugh at me later. Anyway,
start now.
The Battle Master, I have a theory about. The machine gun is crit padded.
Oh, on the Banshee, it's just crit padded?
Yep. Only half ton for the actual gun. Now, why you would do that instead of a case, or maybe he has both? I mean, let's assume it's trip AC2, so not a whole lot of critical space used in there unless he's got heat sinks. So,
well, it's easy enough to cram a couple double. That thing's definitely running some double heat sinks, so it's easy enough to cram them into that side instead of any other.
right.
Trip AC2 plus trip heat sinks. Boom,
But the machine gun doesn't necessarily make sense, right? I mean, a side torso can take a full slot of heat sinks, or does it leave a crit free? Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
no, the 3 AC2s take up 3 crits, and then you stuff in 3 more heat sinks, and that's all 12.
So why the machine gun then?
Yeah.
Ammo, maybe, in there as well? I don't know.
Maybe. Again, then why wouldn't you use the case? I mean,
And if he already has case, then I don't know. That's
then you just shift an extra ton of ammo into that component anyway, and it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't think that's what's important about this match. The machine gun without ammo.
No, it is a
Map where you're
perplexing.
never going to get into machine gun range. I mean, it's whatever. Kathy Inc.'s down to 54%.
Oh,
Let's see how
God,
he's
yeah.
feeling.
Wow.
Well, it's not too bad. It's spread all over the place, and he's lost his dummy arm. He's shifting to the back of the formation so he doesn't get shot anymore. He knows that he's hurt, but he's not in any sort of critical condition. Notably, he did keep his Gauss rifle in his torso, which means he did not lose his Gauss rifle when his right arm came off. On the other hand, it does mean that when they take his right torso and they put pressure on that, it'll melt very quickly because that Gauss rifle almost always explodes, and it does, what is it, 25 points of internal damage?
20.
I mean, that's most 20. It does most of the internal health of that mech. So as soon as they go through the armor, he's pretty damn close to death. So he's going to have to be really careful.
Yes.
Given that.
And Doyle has a significant amount of that damage done to him to its center torso right now.
Yeah, he was cresting pretty aggressively earlier, and it definitely took a lot of Gauss hits at long range. Again, we were talking about they're doing 6 to 7 damage at that range, and that adds up if you keep your head up for too long. Both teams are trying to run low on Gauss ammunition. Bear that in mind. If one team runs out, they're going to look really silly.
Critical.
Well, they all have ER large lasers, but I imagine they make them play after their Gauss runs out.
You don't want to
Or at least
completely
before.
out of. If you want to go for a pick, you don't run completely out of Gauss. You have to keep at least 1 or 2 shots just for that extra finishing burst.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so much more useful in the close range situation than at the long range sniping.
Yeah, once they get that 25% warning, I imagine that they all start backing off their Gauss rifle until it's meaningful.
Sanguine Tiger seems to be down to just a couple rounds on most of their mechs.
Interesting.
Dr. Totenkopf is down to 2 rounds on his Gauss rifle on his Cataphract.
Worth noting, we're down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. So, we're near the end of the match, too.
Yep, should be getting exciting here. Damaged mechs, almost out of ammo mechs, lots of good stuff. Should see somebody go for a pick at some point, because there are some crit
Doyle's
mechs.
CT open.
Yeah. They're gonna have to be
Doctor's
careful
side
with
torso is nearly open. So, there's some damage going on. If I had to give it to somebody right now, I'd say if an aggression was made, Sanguine Tigers is in the worst position for it at the moment.
Yeah, they have overall more damage, and it's not...
More meaningful damage, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That said, I think it is still going to be difficult for Black Spikes to make a move on them. They're going to have to move all the way around the right side of G9, because coming up the plains is just plain suicide in most situations. So they need to get moving like 30 seconds ago if they want to make that happen. Of course, we could just see another draw. That wouldn't be entirely surprising.
Yeah, a minute left on the clock, minute 10 rather. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen.
I don't really see anything happening, to be honest. If they were going to make a move either side, they would have started it already. They're both going to sit back.
Yeah, because Sanguine's in bad shape. They know they can't make a play, and I feel like Black Spikes feels they may be in a similar position, which, I mean, is not entirely far from the truth. They're better off, but they're still... They do have mechs at risk.
Yeah, making a push could easily, even on a full health mech, if you come around that corner there and they get their firing line up on you, you're dead. I mean, it's that simple. And then all I have to do is just drop off the back of the radio tower, and it's going to take you another 30 seconds to climb the damn thing, and then the game's over. So yeah, I don't think that either side is going to do anything here. They're going to poke a little bit, but pretty much nothing's going to happen.
Well, 15 seconds on the clock. Nothing
Doyle
can
keeps
happen.
sticking his head up, though. I'm not sure that's a smart idea. I mean, obviously he's going to be safe at this range, but it's just a risk you don't
Below
want to take.
70%. Kind of rough. And he's a red 70%, so that means that torso is feeling the pain. But the
Yeah,
game's
now
over,
he's
and
dropped down. Yeah. Still, I think that was a little bit risky on his part there.
I agree. And
Regardless,
we are now looking at another
it's a
redraw.
draw. So yeah, hope everyone is excited for a round 3. Only hold our breath and hope they decide to do something different.
And now we see the damage course. Definitely in favor of Lloyd's.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You average that out? Maybe not. Pretty close, actually. Pretty close. All right. Well, an exciting match 2 on drop 4. 4? No, drop 4.
I guess we're just going to watch the next redrop of this particular map. Everyone is waiting with bated breath to see how radically different this drop is going to be. Jeez, this is just baffling to me. I mean, it's totally understandable, but it's very frustrating, I guess, from both a player and a caster perspective. I think to be in a situation, it's probably worse than the players because they have to be sort of on their game for like half an hour straight for just those two, and they got another one coming up, and yeah, nothing's really being achieved. I guess it just shows one of the faults of skirmish mode on this type of situation. It was definitely a problem in like the RHOD league because you'd have the situation where teams would just take a draw. But at least in that case, if you took a draw, it was a draw, and you'd go on to the next draw, and you wouldn't have to do it again. I feel like we could be here for a very long time. So did you see either team do anything different that time from the first draw, other than their positioning, obviously?
The positioning was more aggressive. The mechs were exactly the same. The way they played them were the same. So not really. I think actually hell, the majority of the damage received was 90% strikes. So
I think there was actually a bit of Gauss rifle damage going on both sides. I saw Doyle, for example, a lot of that center torso damage he took was from the Gauss rifles off of the Black Spikes players. Likewise, I saw a couple of Gauss hits, make contact with some of the Black Spikes players. That seemed to be the big weapon at that range because it's just outside ER large laser range. That 1,1400 meter mark. The ER large lasers are not going to do anything.
But even at that range, it's only
so
like, what,
Gauss
5 points damage?
1,300, it's about 7.
Well, that's meaningful, especially over time. And you can hit by 10 or 12 of them over the course of time. Adds up. Certainly adds up.
Yeah, out of 14 is probably closer to 6 again, but it's still it hurts. You stick your head up too long for that, and it will get you.
The question is, what do they do now? I really don't see them doing anything different this time. Like, I expected a more aggressive positioning from Sanguine Tigers on this match, and we saw it. But they can't really get more aggressive than they did without essentially throwing the match.
Yeah, I agree. Being too aggressive on this map is pretty much the surest way to lose, especially on skirmish mode, just because it's so easy for the enemy team to sit back and force you to come across the open while they just snipe down at you. And I don't think I need to go into detail about why that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see what they're going to do differently this time around. They can't pot. Well, I mean, the only thing I can say is Gauss rifles have been reigning supreme. Why not bring more of them? I said this a long time ago that the Gauss rifle projectile speed is incredibly meaningful. At any realistic engagement ranges, it's really hard to not be hit by it.
And I think that it only is that case at particular ranges, because otherwise the ER large will close in just close enough that they can actually start out trading you, because they have a slightly shorter range, but they actually have a very good trading performance. But if you're Sanguine Tigers and you can get up on that radio tower, the closest trading spot that, as we saw, the closest trading spot that Black Spikes can take is on that towards that G9 ridge, so that they are right at that sweet spot of 13 to 1,400 meters where the Gauss actually wildly outperforms the ER large laser. So that may be an option for them because they are able to effectively dictate the range with that position. Go up to that position again and take like a million dual Gauss mics.
Yeah.
It's certainly risky because your potential DPS if you ever get pushed is garbage. But if they're going to sit back and trade you, it's pretty painful. But if I was Black Spikes and I saw that many Gauss rifles and I had any sort of, damage over time superiority over them, I would consider just swinging around, coming around their left side, and just walking a moving firing line straight at them.
They launched again, by the way.